Hello, everyone. For this book talk, I chose three of Lois Lowry's books from a series called The Quartet: The Giver, Gathering Blue, and The Messenger. And each story contains a person with a gift that rises above their situation. All the stories are from the same universe, and each book is like a piece of a larger puzzle, but only the reader can fit the pieces together. So the first book is called The Giver. I'd like to read an excerpt from a scene where Jonas, the main character, is throwing an apple back and forth with his friend. Suddenly, Jonas had noticed, following the path of the apple through the air with his eyes, that the piece of the fruit had, well, this was the part of that he couldn't adequately understand, the apple had changed. Just for an instant. It had changed in mid-air, he remembered. Then it was in his hand, and he looked at it carefully. But it was the same apple, unchanged. The same size and shape, a perfect sphere. The same nondescript shade, about the same shade as his own tunic. So I want you to imagine a place with no color, like this apple, that has no color, no variety. Sameness. Every young girl has red ribbons in her hair, and every child receives a bicycle at age 11. Sameness. A place that chooses your life for you. Will you be a nurturer, a laborer, a birth mother, or something else? Jonas doesn't know what will be picked for him. Soon he must take over a responsibility that has allowed his home to remain the same. But there is a secret that cannot be told, only shown. The gift. So that is the first one. The second one is called Gathering Blue, and here's the cover. So I'd really like to read an excerpt from that as well. Her mother did not know how to make blue. Sometimes they talked of it, Kira and Katrina, looking at the huge upturned bowl of sky above their world. If only I could make blue, her mother said. I've heard that somewhere there is a special plant. She looked out at her own garden, thick with the flowers and shoots from which she could create the golds and greens and pinks, and shook her head in yearning for the one color she could not create. Now her mother was dead. Kira, the main character, was deemed worthless from the start. Her bum leg was made sure of that. Only she wasn't taken to the fields because of her mother. Now she had nothing but her gift. The great event called the Ruin made the village the way it was, dirty, violent, and uncaring. The women of the village wanted to take Kira to the fields, a place where the beasts take you, a place where no one returns. But she has the gift of threading. She soon learns how to make all the colors except the one she wants the most, Gathering Blue. The last book is called The Messenger. So I'll also read an excerpt. At first, having found his way to village, he had thought his own brutal beginnings, a fatherless hovel for a home, a grim, defeated mother who beat him and his brother bloody, were unusual. But now he knew that there were communities everywhere, sprinkled across the vast landscape of the known world, in which people suffered, not always from beatings and hunger, the way he had, but from ignorance, from not knowing, from being kept from knowledge. So Maddie, once he came to the village, he stayed with the seer, a blind man who taught him how to read, write, and not to steal. The village was surrounded by a forest, a dense forest. The forest usually gave warnings, but not to everyone. Maddie and the forest had an understanding, but something dark is stirring in the woods. The thorns pierce and the vines tangle, and no one knows why. The Messenger, by Lois Lowry. And there's also a fourth book in this series called The Sun, so if you enjoy these books, which I know you will, then you should check that one out too.